Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Sammons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Mark Gordon, a sales growth strategist and go-to-market consultant, and the founder of Integrative Go-To-Market Solutions, a consultancy focused on helping B2B companies design, implement, and scale sales systems that are predictable, measurable, and built for long-term success. Mark works with founders and leaders and leadership teams who are tired of guesswork, inconsistent pipelines, and relying on hero sales efforts. His approach brings structure to growth, aligning strategy, messaging, processes, and execution so sales teams can perform consistently without burnout or chaos. Mark, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you here, and such a pleasure to have you. Such a pleasure. So let's dive into this. With all of my guests, I do like to start at the beginning of their journey. So if you don't mind, Mark, briefly taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started out the company, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, awesome. So I spent about 20 years in the mortgage and real estate industries, helping build companies, buy companies, sell companies all over the place. And I then exited that industry about a little over 2 years ago, and took some time off to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. And I went on a journey and kind of helped some friends and family grow their businesses, had a bunch of different success with that. And then really noticed that there were some holes in a lot of their businesses, starting with, despite the fact they were really smart people who were really accomplished, and in their head, I think kind of knew what they were doing or why they were doing it, who they were serving. They were unable to communicate those things effectively, either in small ways or in large ways. And when I found this gap and realized how big of a problem it was, I decided to really focus on um, how I could help those people with that. And then we started our company in June, and so far so good. It's been really great.
Awesome, I love it. So really like finding that problem that you can solve and then just running for the hills with it, which is pretty cool.
That, that's
And I
it.
feel like helping your friends out at first, before you even realize you're kind of good at that, you're just kind of going, oh, I can fix that for you. We can move from that. It's a really great soft integration into things. I don't know if that kind of helped you out when you were starting out kind of the company and the entrepreneurship, making that jump into it, just making it more
Yeah, I
comfortable.
mean, yeah, no, it's a great question. So I guess what I'll say is that being in real estate and mortgages, what is inherent to those businesses is that it is a commodity-based product. If you're in the mortgage industry in the United States, every company is selling the exact same products at the exact same price, and there are thousands of companies competing for that business. So all you have are sales and marketing, and all you have are your ability to articulate what makes you slightly different than those other 1,000 companies. And having 20 years of reps in that space, and then coming into industries like SaaS or fintech or service-based businesses where there was real differentiation between what these companies were doing versus what their competitors were doing, and seeing the struggle to articulate that differentiation, the things that had come naturally to me based on the 20 years of experience I had operating in those intensely competitive, commoditized businesses, translated really well to the areas where we then actually had real differentiation. And so we were able to bring clarity to that process. And what we found is that just in that external messaging, once you have that clarity, it actually transformed their internal messaging, their ability to share with their teams what they were doing and why they were doing it. And then those teams were much more effective in executing those strategies going forward. And so it was really just something that I kind of stumbled into, and we realized that we
Yeah.
kind of kept unlocking all this progress, and it seemed like something that was worth doing on a full-time basis.
100%. I love it. And let's dive into that a little bit more then. So like at this point, who at this point would you say like is your ideal client? Like who do you really, really love to work with? And then from there, how is you help them and how would you support them throughout that process?
Yeah, I would say that there are two different kind of buckets that I see companies that are stalling in that we're trying to push through. One is, companies that are usually between 1.5 to $5 million in annual revenue. They've been successful based on the hard work of a founder who, through relationships, connections, or a small network, was able to really grow out their business. And then, but they have not built out any of the muscles for scaling or for delegation inside the organization, and they're really stuck with just kind of where that founder's maxed out ability is, and then they're kind of stuck at that level. And so those companies we were able to hop into, make huge wholesale differences, and you really just see within 4 to 6 months they're breaking through to whole new levels and experiencing all new problems, which are good things to have. And then there's the companies that are kind of in the 15 to $30 million a year range, which I would say have certainly moved beyond the founder process, but are stuck in terms of they probably need a chief revenue officer to grab alignment between messaging, lead generation, sales process, and technology, but are not at the level where they can afford or attract those high level people, and maybe it would be too expensive for them to hire somebody in full time to do that. And so they bring us in to really be that kind of fractional chief revenue officer, lead that 4 month we call go-to-market sprint, where we bring that alignment to everything, and then give them the plan to be able to execute going forward, and so they can achieve that next rung on the scale. And so those are kind of the two buckets we find companies in, and that are ideal clients for us. And industry is sort of irrelevant. Kind of the two things that we're looking for are usually it's business to business sales, or certainly high ticket sales, and then
Yeah.
a product that is complicated enough where it requires a salesperson and a sales process. So there are definitely better consultants out there for people. If you're getting people to your website and having them buy without ever talking to anybody in your team, like we can certainly help with that, but that's not really our core. Our core is uh, aligning that messaging and marketing that drives somebody to your site and then become a lead, and then how you take that lead from the beginning of that process through your customer success journey.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously you have the two different kind of terms there as well, because you mentioned founders low open when they kind of get to the point where they need to push through, and then you obviously got this COR kind of position in the companies that have already established, scaled, and maybe need that role. So when you work with them too, like what is the approach you take? Are they kind of a similar approach in that, in the sense where you kind of really immerse yourself within the company, or is it more of like a one-to-one with high contact points and kind of moving across until they're good to go to the next step, I guess?
No, so well, I'd say with each group, we do somewhat different things, right? So in
Okay.
those smaller groups, we're almost exclusively working directly with the founder, and then we're usually bringing in our vendors or other marketing people that we know to kind of solve individual problems with their organization. And it's a very customized approach specifically for that business and that founder's individual struggles. When we work with the bigger companies, we're certainly working directly with founders, but then oftentimes they have a head of sales or a head of marketing or an
Yeah.
agency they're already working with. And then it's my job to create alignment within those teams and make sure that they're working together towards a unified vision. So there are the same process, which is we reevaluate messaging based on uh, what their current clients are telling us, what the current employees and leadership in the company are telling us. We then redesign their lead generation strategy in terms of how we're going to go out to the world, how we're going to get this message in front of the right people at the right time in a way that's going to lead to the meetings, and then how they're going to conduct their sales process. But in terms of the actual things we do inside their organization, it does vary pretty drastically between, hey, the founder's still kind of doing everything, we need to punch through that, versus, hey, we have a leader and some helper, we have a leader and then leaders inside the organization, and now we need to bring those people together and really create a unified vision.
Love it. So a very tailored approach, just depending on where they're at when they meet you, kind of the situation you have to encounter. I am curious to find out though how you go about acquiring your customers. So like again, what channels, what methods are you really finding most effective for yourself in finding that right person to work with?
Yeah, so again, one of the things that's interesting as I read through some of the questions you've asked people in the past, and I started preparing for this interview, was, we really only launched this and decided we want to do this full time in June. So it's still very new. And so a lot of the things that we're struggling with, I think are just like pieces of the very much planned journey, where, like, you kind of move with the rock and you move this, or you can't move them all at once, right? So there's like a lot of things I know that we're not good at right now, not because we can't figure them out, but because they're just not, we haven't prioritized them
Yeah.
yet in sort of our journey here. But I'll say, so right now, the vast majority of our clients are coming from one of four channels. We're doing a lot of LinkedIn outreach, direct cold outreach on LinkedIn. We're doing cold email outreach. I am a member of some founders groups where organically people start asking for help or have questions for sales and marketing. We help those people just kind of for free to help them. And then they go, hey, can we get more of your help and time? And those people become clients. And then referrals. One of the really great things about selling directly to founders is that founders know other founders and they have a lot of influence with those other founders. And so if you help one person, they're really happy to introduce you to other people in some other industries that can kind of benefit from your work. So those are the four channels. as we continue to scale this year, there's kind of two main next pieces, right? One is how do we refine our process so that I can continue to bring in talented people to our organization who can pick up, maybe they don't do all the pieces of it that I've been doing for our clients, but they can pick up this piece or that piece at an expert level and kind of continue to reduce their reliance on me as we get to our next level and scale. And then how do we mix paid advertising into what we do, which is whether it's Google, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever channels we said do, we'll probably do all of them as we get going. But kind of where to start and where to get to and be able to measure kind of the effectiveness of what's working and not working. And so again, I've built companies before. I've been in this seat a long time. I know kind of the strategic steps we need to take. But what I say is if you don't have your messaging dialed in where you can't build pipeline through cold email or through LinkedIn direct messaging, none of those things are going to work when you do ads either. And so you start with that cheap, you know, maybe what we call an inefficient path to growth, but you get to test out a lot of different messaging in a very inexpensive way. We've dialed that process in. We kind of went one new client, no new clients, one new client, two new clients, three new clients, four new clients, over the last 6, 7 months. So we know what's working and what we're dialing in. And now, the next step is kind of building those repeatable processes that, if I put $1 in, I get $3 out, $4 out, $6 out. And that's kind of the next step in our journey.
Awesome, I love it. So just like really building the house of cards from with a solid ground, and then we're going to add on top of that. And ads just brings in a whole nother level of consistency, obviously regards to the cold outreach as well. So it's just a lovely mix. And moving with all platforms, I think is always a positive. Just because you find different areas, you're never going to go dry it again. It's just like nice current lead flow that what you want. And then when it comes to the back end, obviously you mentioned they're about 6 months into the company. Are you pretty much a solopreneur, Mark, or do you have a team that are helping you out with maybe sales, marketing, operations, and just leaving a little bit of roles that you might have to cover within your company?
Yeah, no, we have a team. Certainly all of my company's marketing, social media is being done by my team. I'm involved in the strategy level, but not the execution level of any of that. From a sales perspective, I'm still handling all of the sales calls myself, mostly because I think we have a pretty good screening process where the calls that are getting to me are qualified and I think that's really important. But also, I think being involved in the sales process allows me to make sure that we're continuing to dial in our offerings, our products, and make sure that we have the right custom plan for each customer in terms of execution. I have deep thoughts in terms of how we will scale that beyond my direct involvement as we go forward. But right now, I think it's just so valuable as we continue to try to dial in exactly how to productize what we do. When I first launched this, I was like, I'm going to charge X amount of dollars hourly. And it was like, okay, I don't want to do that. Even what we've been able to do with AI just in no way makes sense to charge on an hourly basis anymore. What used to take me 20 hours now takes me 1.5 or 2. And so it didn't make sense to charge on an hourly basis. Okay, how do we productize each piece of it? So there's a lot of moving parts. But I would say is that right now at this stage we're at, being intimately involved in the sales process feels like a really good use of my time. And then we'll continue to kind of branch out from there. Luckily, in my career, I've hired and trained more than 1,000 salespeople, and so it will not be hard to tap into my network to bring in that generation of salespeople who already know me and how I work
Yeah.
when we're ready to take that next step.
That's such a key aspect when growing the team, right? Making sure they're aligned with your vision. They know what it's like to work with you. They know what you expect. So when you have that kind of ready to come in, like you've got that kind of employee pipeline, that's also a really good aspect to have. And like as you look to grow, so like what are your plans for the next 6 to 12 months? Like when you think about scaling the business or taking those next steps, what does that vision look like for you? What is the goal moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, so it's evolving quickly. I did a bunch of goal planning here over the last few weeks, and I like to do it late because especially when you're in the startup stage, there's just so much new information, and I just keep increasing what our goal is for next year because, quite frankly, I think we're elevating faster than I expected because, each time I think you do this as a founder, you just get better at it, right? And you learn, you kind of,
Yeah.
and so, and then the mistakes you've made in growing companies before, in some ways create fear. And so when I first grew my first mortgage company, we grew like crazy, but I grew it like Amazon. I wasn't worried about profit. I was like, hey, we need to hire, we need to grow, we need to scale. And we was like, grow, grow, grow. And it was like, well, in the mortgage industry, causes you a lot of pain to not do it profitably, which I didn't realize until later down the road. So like this time, I'm like overly conscious about making sure that we are running at what I would consider very healthy profit margins, not just because we need to make that profit right now, we don't, but because it creates the habits that allow you, that force you to have really good dialed in processes. Because if the scoreboard is making money and you're not making money, you're willing to skip that part of it, you can allow yourself to have some really bad habits that feel good because you're growing, but you're not actually building, something that's scalable. And so, um, you know, I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but in terms of just measuring what we're doing and what's working, it's hey, we're gonna be fearless this year in terms of where we go with our goals, but we're also gonna be overwhelmingly responsible by creating rules for ourselves in terms of what healthy scale looks like. And so I think the short answer is I think we can take if I take what we were doing on a monthly basis in December, I think we can very safely double that between now and next December, and do that responsibly while making sure we're able to continue to deliver world-class service to the clients that are coming on board and scale responsibly and keep it fun and new and exciting. Maybe I'm not being ambitious enough with that, but we know that we want to grow profitably and we know we don't want to raise money. And so those two things factoring into our decision making mean that we're probably going to grow a little slower than we could be going, but that we're going to do it in a way that feels responsible and fun.
Yeah, and I think that was really good advice to when you listen to who are in that kind of startup stage themselves, like keep an eye on your numbers. As you say, it's having those good habits from the start that lead to success sometimes, it is the hard work, it's the back end, it's the making sure you stay on top of everything. So that was a really great lesson learned from the first one round as well. And then where are you finding like maybe the biggest challenge for yourself, Mark, in taking those next steps? Because at the moment I feel you kind of take everything in your stride, which is a really good mindset to have.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things that I've never heard anybody talk about before on a podcast or anywhere else that has kind of blown my mind is like when we were when we were building this company called Princeton Mortgage and I was the chief revenue officer there during COVID. I remember I was working like 16-hour days, 6 days a week, and grinding like crazy. And I was exhausted at the end of every day, but like man, I felt like pretty sharp and on it for most of that time period. And then when you take off, and I took some really took some time off to be with my family, like 2 summers ago. I was with my kids. I brought them to swim practice every day. I mean, I really like took the time off. The stamina that you build, sort of like if you were an elite level athlete or a marathon runner, like it doesn't just like come back. You can't just like slip into it. And I'll say that while we've been in this growth mode, and by the way, and now that I'm also using my creative energy, not just to grow our business, but also to grow my clients' business, and I have to be really creative in their processes. I get to a place every day, around 5 o'clock, where like I'm hitting a creativity wall, and I'm probably the thing I struggle with most is having real clarity on like getting creative in terms of my vision for our business when I'm using a lot of that creativity for our clients' businesses. And so one of the things I've really challenged my team with, say, hey, you're not gonna, you can't execute my orders or whatever for what our strategy is going to be here because I don't have the energy to be as focused probably as I should be right now as a CEO, have that stamina to focus on the creative energy on our business. I'm giving that all to the clients right now. And so I'm challenging them to step up and really think of those
Yeah.
creative solutions to whatever problems we have coming up. But I guess the long and short of it is because I'm trying to keep our profit margins very healthy, I don't want to go hire the next group of people that are going to help us scale and bring this up. And so I want to keep more of those things in house with our current team. But at the same time, the stamina and the creative energy to both serve our clients and to figure out our next strategy that sometimes let me feel like I have a very cloudy brain. And so that's my biggest struggle right now. But I can tell you every week and every month, I can feel myself building back up to that marathon level pace and I love the work, right? So then none of it seemed, I'm never complaining about hours. Like my favorite thing to be doing is working with my clients, solving these problems. I think we're making a huge difference in the world. I think at the end of this, I'd like there to be really a movement, which is, if we can make the world a better place by helping really great founders be more successful in getting their products out to the market, like that feels like a really special mission for me.
Yeah.
My passion has always been helping other people get to where they want to go. And so I love that aspect of what I get to do. But there's only so much capacity, creativity in each day to do that. And so figuring out when to offload some of that, how to offload some of it, and how to continue to build my stamina around it are really the biggest challenges I'm going to have for the next 6 months. And then once I get through those, we'll have a whole nother series of things to break through.
Yeah, as a founder, there'll never be a fire that you haven't got to put out. But looking after your own cup, Mark, is definitely number one. There isn't enough Mark to give around for everybody. But I mean, with that being said, it is that whole mosey. When you kind of get your mind and your brain in that kind of zone, it's amazing what your body can accomplish. You know, as you say, you will work those, you will grind those hours, you'll do their day, and you'll feel amazing when you finish. But when you stop, yeah, the crash might come. But just getting back into gear. And Mark, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
Yeah, our website's super simple. Integrated Go-To-Market Solutions. It's igtms.com. You can find me on Instagram at Mark D. Gordon. D is in Douglas, or find me on LinkedIn. Just if you Google Mark Gordon, IGTMS, I'm going to come right up. So you can find me there. But yes, we'd love to meet with you, and you can also book a meeting with us right on our website. And so you book a meeting with us, you're going to get a meeting with me. And so I'm happy to sit down with you, learn about your business, and give my best advice.
Amazing. And Mark, thank you again for joining us. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go and check out Mark and all the amazing stuff that he's up to. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from zero to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you on the next one.